This 13 WREX presentation, Project Tornado, is brought to you by Martin Exteriors Roofing and Siding. Project Tornado starts now.
Good evening and welcome to this 13 WREX original presentation, Project Tornado. I'm your weather authority, Chief Meteorologist Alex Kirchner. Over the next half hour, our goal is to educate you concerning severe weather and its impact here in northern Illinois. Because when you're in the know, you have the tools to make better and safer decisions for you and your family when severe weather strikes. Devastation and destruction. That's what severe storms, including tornadoes, can cause, even if you and your family are prepared. Look no further than the March 31st tornado outbreak. Across the state line, more than 10 twisters touched down, damaging homes, schools, and even historic theaters. When I was on the air that Friday night, I was tracking storm after storm. Track radar showing that line of thunderstorm activity now moving essentially through Elizabeth, heading towards Stockton, and this thing is moving fast. Freeport, again, we're keeping an eye on you. Our team knew this system was coming to the state line. We warned our communities days before this was going to be an active night. Right along the Mississippi, as you can see, where widespread violent severe storms are possible. This is at a 4 out of 5 on the risk scale, and then a 3 out of 5 for the rest of southern Wisconsin and northern Illinois. And we were right, because before it came here, the system triggered strong storms and twisters in Iowa. Just after 4:30 p.m., that's when we started tracking our first warnings. I told my team as we were on the air, this is just the beginning. We've got all sorts of colors on the map. Red for tornado warnings. These are in effect between 6:30 and about 7 o'clock for Joe Davis and Carroll counties. And then severe thunderstorm warnings stretching from Greene County in southern Wisconsin clear down to Whiteside County in northern Illinois. And they knew, because of our forecasted models, what we had seen further west, more warnings were coming. And as we went into the evening hours, just after our 6 p.m. newscast, we were getting video from our Iowa stations of these massive twisters on the ground. Not just for seconds, but for minutes. And traveling long distances, about a half an hour later, wind gusts usually associated with hurricanes were being recorded in western Illinois and moving our way. With those winds was a line of multiple cells triggering tornado warnings from southern Wisconsin to central Illinois. Now, I've been working in Illinois for almost a decade, and I hadn't seen a setup like this since 2015. You might remember that was the Fairdale tornado outbreak. So this was a challenge, but we were well prepared and ready to keep our communities informed and safe. As the warnings were issued by the National Weather Service, it wasn't 1 or 2. We're talking 3 or 4 that we were tracking at the same time. We have a confirmed tornado over Mount Carroll. We're also seeing huge hail cores associated with these storms, and that was another danger on top of the tornadoes on the ground. As the storms got closer to the Rockford area, we actually had to take cover here at the station. We're going to move to the basement right now. Stay with us for additional updates. Our entire team went to the basement, and we continue to track the threat on the air. Move to the temporary studio because, as you can see, we've got a brand new tornado warning out for Winnebago County. This also extends into eastern Ogle County, and it's all the way across Lee County, too. So we've got... And things were about to get worse. I gave the all clear at the station to go back upstairs, and this was about 7:30. We had to run back to the studio, and as soon as we got there, 3 tornadoes were on the ground in Winnebago County all at the same time. So in Rockford, homes got torn apart, roofs damaged, trees just tossed across the road. And you have to remember, we've been warning people about this scenario all week. The Ice Hogs had a game that night, but they had a plan in place to move people to the basement, which they did. The biggest story we covered, though, was what happened in downtown Belvedere. Hundreds of people inside a packed concert hall were in the direct path of the storm. A tornado tornado moving along the Kishwaukee River hit the Apollo Theater. The roof collapsed. Dozens of people were trapped. The first responders in the middle of the storm had to rush to the scene. Tragically, one person died and dozens were injured. It could have been so much worse, though. The night didn't end there, though. These storms moved into southern Wisconsin and Milwaukee, which we don't cover, but I was still watching the radar. And to think these storms started in Iowa and moved all the way to southeastern Wisconsin in the matter of hours just goes to show you just how powerful Mother Nature can be. When powerful storms are set to strike, the National Weather Service is on guard and ready to issue warnings. We visited our local office in Chicago and got inside access into the techniques and technology they use to track storms and issue warnings to keep us safe. As with anything, practice makes perfect. We visited Kevin D'Onofrio at the National Weather Service in Chicago as the staff were going through simulations of past severe weather events to get ready for future ones.
We kind of have a period of time where people aren't working and operating in the mode of looking at thunderstorms and convective warnings. So because of that, we need to get the rust off. We need to get the practice. So when you're in the heat of battle, I'm not worried about what buttons am I going to click, or are my procedures in place in order for me to issue warnings. I can come right in on shift and be able to be ready to go to issue warnings.
Severe weather days can become a high-pressure environment. Getting used to these pressures can be invaluable during a severe weather outbreak.
What the key is the more reps you have with this and the more you see that, the better your conceptual model or your database you have. It's like, hey, I've seen that before. I kind of know how this is going to evolve.
The Weather Service uses multiple radar and satellite tools and a ton of different weather data to analyze the structure of each storm and how it moves and evolves. Practicing with these tools leads to getting the right perspective when a warning might be needed. In this example, severe storms moving toward the Chicago radar look very threatening. However, the storms near Rockford are moving perpendicular to the Chicago radar and don't look all that impressive. Once neighboring radars are brought in and analyzed, the storms near Rockford are much more threatening. Learning to use all of these tools in harmony with each other means warnings get out quickly, giving citizens time to seek shelter. Once the threat is identified, the NWS can quickly draft and send out a warning.
I can put a line of storms here and track that. And so once we've got our motion, so this looks like it's kind of following pretty well. What you'll do is you'll try to often align this with where the storm would be ending. Once I've done that, and you'll choose tornado warning, severe thunderstorm warning, and then we go to the threats. We got observations of reports, we can put those there. If tornadoes are possible but have not formed, we can put the tornado possible tag in here. And then once that's done, you can put other information. But the key behind this is this system helps you help you put the product together quickly.
This technology allows the NWS to get warnings out within 30 seconds of seeing and analyzing the storm threats. The severe weather warnings are only as good as the people listening to them and taking action.
The most important thing is being prepared, because a forecast is only good as people who take action on it. We can put out a warning, but if that doesn't do anything or doesn't help you make a decision to act, then it's no good for anyone. So that's why we're here, is to help you make the best decisions in these situations to keep your communities, your family safe.
The National Weather Service is in charge of rating tornadoes after the storms pass. They assess the damage done, and from there they determine how strong a tornado or straight-line winds were.
We are already off to a fast start to the season, and it may be due to the conditions that took place this winter. Here's a deeper look into how our weather patterns are all connected. What happens within our atmosphere across the globe can bring impacts all the way back to northern Illinois. One weather pattern that many meteorologists look at for winter and even spring forecasting is if we are in a La Nina or El Nino. Every few years, winds will shift near the equator and cause water in the Pacific Ocean to get warmer than usual. This is a phenomenon known as El Nino. El Nino typically brings northern Illinois warmer than usual temperatures with less precipitation during the winter. The opposite pattern is known as La Nina. This is the pattern we have seen across the globe for the last 3 years. It's when water in the Pacific Ocean gets colder than usual, leading to cooler than usual temperatures along with above average precipitation during the winter. As we head into the rest of our spring season, the third consecutive year of La Nina has come to an end, bringing us into a neutral pattern before El Nino develops into the fall.
The big question amongst all of us is, what will that do to severe weather season here across the Midwest?
It's a tough question to answer. According to a study done by NOAA, El Nino and La Nina conditions often persist from winter into spring. So the pattern we see during winter can help predict tornado and hailstorm frequency for our spring months. The study shows a strong correlation between a La Nina pattern during the winter leading to more frequent storms, producing tornadoes and hail into severe season. Unfortunately, there is a less clear connection between these patterns and summertime storms. There is even less information on how a neutral pattern will impact severe season in the U.S. and our area at home. We spoke to Professor Victor Gensini about what these patterns may mean.
It's challenging because we don't have a large sample size of El Nino, neutral, and La Nina. We look through the database, you really only have about 15 or 20 of these types of events. So it's hard to robustly say that if we're in a La Nina, it's going to equate to a big severe weather season, especially in Illinois.
A lack of studies and information still leaves us with a few question marks, especially on what this neutral pattern can bring. As we fade out of La Nina, the severe weather season has already been active, bringing over 400 confirmed tornadoes to the United States just through mid-April. That includes numerous tornadoes that swept through the state line on March 31st. As we are just kicking off the season, regardless of what pattern we may be in, when these ingredients come together, severe weather can happen at any time and anywhere. It's important to stay weather aware, especially heading into the rest of our severe season. With severe season already underway, you will hear many different terms like watch and warning. Let's break down what each of those terms mean and, most importantly, how to stay safe if one of those is issued. A watch is issued when all ingredients needed to produce severe thunderstorms are ready and available, such as shear, lift, instability, and moisture. This is a way to give folks a heads up that if thunderstorms develop, they are in the right conditions to turn severe. But a warning is issued when there is an immediate threat, such as a strong, severe storm headed your way. Think of this difference using cupcakes. A watch would have all your ingredients needed and ready to create cupcakes, from the flour to the eggs to the butter, versus a warning, which would be the end result, your cupcake. A warning is issued when all the ingredients have come together to produce the outcome, which may be a strong storm headed your way. Knowing this difference can help you better prepare and take action if a warning is issued. Always have a plan for when severe weather strikes, including knowing where your safe spot is. Anytime we have storms, the most important thing to do is to get indoors. If a tornado is coming, know where to go in your house. You want to put as many walls between you and the outside as possible. This is why a hallway, closet, or bathroom are all good places to go during severe weather. Cover yourself up with blankets or a mattress for extra protection. The best place to be, of course, is below ground and in a basement. If you don't have a basement, again, a closet, hallway, or bathroom on the lowest floor are all good options. Your safe spot at home should be stocked with supplies like weather radio, first aid kit, flashlights, food and water, and other supplies to keep you safe and ready in case of an emergency. Understanding where your safe spot is and what to do to prepare should get you ready for severe weather season. Back to you.
Damage from severe weather can come in multiple forms. We don't always need a tornado to cause wind damage. April 30th, 2022 is a good example. Damage occurred near downtown Rockford as a result of strong wind gusts. The gusts were estimated to be between 70 and 80 miles per hour. That is as strong as a tornado. What can make a severe thunderstorm more dangerous than a tornado is that the storm covers much more territory compared to a tornado. We can see more widespread damage as a result. You can tell the difference between the two when looking at the damage they cause. Tornadoes lift the debris up into the air. The winds of a tornado are also spinning, so the debris is thrown in different directions. On top of the winds, large hail can come out of severe thunderstorms. This also can be damaging, especially above a quarter in size. Don't forget, lightning, heavy rain, and the ability to produce tornadoes add to the danger severe thunderstorms can bring. On a much larger scale, derechos can be even more devastating. A derecho is a long line of severe thunderstorms with wind gusts reaching tornado to hurricane strength. Specifically, we need to see gusts over 58 miles per hour, several separate 70-mile-per-hour wind gusts or greater. The derecho's path needs to extend over 250 miles at least. In addition to the destructive wind gusts, tornadoes and hail can also form, adding to the danger derechos bring. Since this massive and dangerous line of storms covers so much territory, derechos can devastate entire communities, if not half of a state. On average, we see 1 to 2 derechos in the Midwest during the summer, so stay alert when the forecast looks right for these monster squall lines. Anytime a tornado is on the ground, we obviously want to be as far away from it as possible. Just down the road from us, however, is a vortex you can safely interact with. We got up close and personal to show off the structure of tornadoes. In order to show you the structure of tornadoes and how they work, obviously we can't get up close and personal with a real one, so we came to the Museum of Science and Industry to play around with their 2-story vortex. This exhibit really mimics what you would see in nature. You've got fans below providing that updraft, that upward movement into the thunderstorm. You have fans at different levels going up, helping create that wind shear, which gets the swirling effect, that swirling vortex. And then the condensation coming from the fog machine is similar to what you would see within the clouds of the thunderstorm. And take note, this is not just a hollow cone of wind that comes down. You can see how the vortex swirls all the way up. That's really mimicking what you would see in an actual tornado. Wind shear's a big driver when it comes to tornadoes and thunderstorms that produce tornadoes. As you can see, as we go down the line here, if the wind shear's any little bit off, there's too much or not enough wind shear, you don't get that vortex going to produce a tornado. This is a big reason why we don't see tornadoes in every thunderstorm, because a lot has to line up just right to get that tornado to touch all the way down to the ground. If you've ever seen a green sky when we have intense thunderstorms or a tornado, this is the reason why. It's all about how light scatters through our atmosphere. So as light approaches from the sun into our atmosphere, it's coming in all wavelengths, all colors. It hits the air of our atmosphere and it starts to scatter some. So that filters out the red light, giving us the blue sky. That's why the sky is blue. During intense thunderstorms, that scattering can happen again, depending on the sun angle, as well as the storm itself, how much hail and rain and condensation's built up in there. So basically that can scatter out the blue light, giving us that eerie green hue that can be a warning that strong storms are approaching. A special thanks to the Museum of Science and Industry in Chicago for allowing us to visit and interact with their Science Storms exhibit. We've all seen the devastation that severe storms and tornadoes can do to a neighborhood. A little prevention can go a long way. We talked with Professor Walker Ashley of Northern Illinois University on how you can fortify your home against storm damage.
You can survive even a strong tornado if you do the right thing. Your roof is the thing that is usually most vulnerable. And so making sure you invest in a good quality roof, but also roofer. Secondly is garage. We often don't think of our garage doors as, you know, a protective unit, but the problem is as soon as you let wind into that garage, your home becomes a kite. And so we often see failure soon thereafter. So investing in your roofing structure and garage, making sure that garage door is shut if you have one, is paramount. In terms of new construction, what I'm always shocked by is the lack of sort of linking the house to the foundation, and so making sure that the house is bolted to the foundation. I'd spend so much more time on that than worrying about countertops or what kind of refrigerator or whatever you have in the kitchen. Spend time thinking about, is the house securely fastened to the foundation, and other items such as hurricane clips or even straps, which do not cost that much upon installation, can really fortify your house.
Ashley strongly recommends looking into the Fortified program from the Insurance Institute for Business and Home Safety. They have guidelines on how to brace and strengthen your roof and home against severe wind.
As severe season is already underway, those chances for stronger storms have returned. And with the warming climate, we can expect to see a change in how those storms act here in the state line. An exponentially warming climate, constantly changing year after year. Severe weather becoming common and frequent. So we're answering the question, what does climate change have to do with an increase in severe storms across the country? And how can we better prepare here in the state line?
Climate in and of itself isn't this, this one thing that we can look at. Climate is weather that happens over months, years, and decades, and kind of asking the questions of what's normal and how are patterns changing.
Kelton Halbert, a PhD candidate at the University of Wisconsin-Madison, says it's important to look at how changes and patterns impact trends, because those trends give us the insight we need to predict severe weather.
Looking at what factors cause that to evolve, affecting how climate evolves.
An evolution that we are already seeing the effects of.
We're seeing a lengthening of the severe weather season in all aspects. It starts with sort of an earlier start, but also a later end. I mean, you can have severe storms, right, September, October, November, and if the conditions are favorable, then what you're doing is really lengthening the season.
We spoke to Victor Gensini, a professor of meteorology at Northern Illinois University, about current trends and how they could impact our weather as our climate keeps warming. He says we can anticipate better conditions to produce stronger storms, something we're already seeing this year.
Two of the most prolific tornado outbreaks last year were in December. December 10th, the Mayfield, Kentucky tornado, but then we also had December 15th in Iowa, which is another big severe weather day in the Midwest. So it starts to beg the question, right, or are these trends that we're seeing, are they already here? Not necessarily, 50 years from now, which is what some of our climate models are showing.
When it comes to what we need for severe storms to develop, there are two crucial ingredients: wind shear and instability. Wind shear is when winds move in different directions at different heights. Instability is like a battery for storms, how much energy is built up in the atmosphere. When those two combined in a warmer climate,
the storms have high likelihood of producing tornadoes and large hail.
Gensini also mentions that we have a likelihood to see more outbreaks and more big tornadoes on those severe days in the Midwest. We may even see your typical tornado alley shift further to the east into the Midwest.
If you look through time, the number of F1 and greater tornadoes that we've had in the United States has been stagnant. It has not changed. What has changed is where these tornadoes are occurring. So, yeah, the national average might be flat, but if you live in Kansas, your trend actually over the last 40 years has been down. If you live in Rockford or Paducah or Nashville, you've seen a pretty marked increase in the number of tornadoes over the last 40 years. We think a lot of that actually is climate change with the drying out of the Great Plains and sort of, again, more heat and humidity that we're finding further to the east.
According to Climate Central, as the climate continues to warm, the number of days conducive to severe weather is projected to increase. The threat of severe rotating thunderstorms has been dramatically increasing in parts of the country. That increase has been seen within northern Illinois. We are seeing more days with favorable conditions for tornadoes as the climate has been warming. Although this is a subtle but noticeable change, we may start to see more active, severe weather in the state line. In terms of what we can do moving forward or when severe weather strikes, Gensini has one message.
You might have a plan for fire in your home. You should really have a plan for severe weather. I know it kind of sounds silly and you think it's never going to be you on the news, but it will eventually happen, right? It's a low probability, but these events obviously are extreme.
Having a plan and knowing where your safe space is crucial, especially as our warming climate is bringing changes and potentially more frequent severe weather within the Midwest. It is important to keep in mind as our climate warms, our severe weather season will be longer. That means a higher potential of stronger and more frequent storms.
And that's all we have for you tonight on this special report, Project Tornado. We hope this information can help keep you and your family prepared for the severe weather season to come.
A special thanks goes out to the Museum of Science and Industry and the National Weather Service in Chicago for allowing us to visit, and to our producers, William Ingalls, TJ Whitmer, Ethan Wiles, and everyone behind the scenes for helping putting this together.
Be sure to visit WREX.com for a more detailed look at the science behind forecasting. For now, though, we thank you for joining us here. Stay safe and have a good night.